Welcome back to Attitude, Effort, Results presented by Teamwork Online and the Clubhouse. Everybody who's listened to this podcast before knows a little bit about me and knows a little bit about me being real, being raw, being honest, and telling a little bit of the side of the sport industry and life in general that maybe most would not share. Today, you're going to hear a story about being real more in depth. And I'm very excited to bring my guest on here today because he has a story that most of you probably have not heard before. Most of you maybe have read about something like it, have listened to it, but to hear it directly from the source, I know I have never heard a story like this before. And so, whether you are a believer or not today, I want you to lean in because today's story is so compelling, is so, um, at the end of it, probably going to be motivating, but it's definitely one that you're going to want to stay in tune with. If you're driving, if you're working on the treadmill, dive in. If you're not, I challenge you to bring out a notebook, take some notes because today is going to be exciting and impactful. Johan, welcome to the Attitude Effort Results podcast.
Blessed, Anna. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, man.
You're welcome. Well, today I'm going to start out. We're going to dive right in. We talk about being real. Your company,
Yeah,
Be Real Consulting, obviously being the forefront of that, right? And
yeah.
so dive directly into what is it that you do, first of all. I want to work through that. And then we're going to tell about the story on the back end of how you got to be there. So tell everybody where you're currently at, what you're doing. Not in America.
Yeah, I know, right? So where I'm currently at is based in Cape Town, South Africa. That's my hometown. And obviously from there, I travel a lot. From my company, which you refer to, Be Real Company, I do a lot of company culture restructuring there, and help companies to just realign the company culture, but based on relationship and character. And the invitation to be real, because without being real, you can't relate to people. There's no relationship. And so I like to do that. That's my passion. From that space, I do a lot of mentoring with C-suite executives and business owners. Because at that space, which I've been in my life before, at that level, you're alone. You know, everybody looks up to you. You've got to have the answers, and everybody comes to you. And where do you go? You know, you're alone, and that's a dangerous place to be. So I'm that person for C-suite executives and business owners and professional sports people. You know, with one place where they can be safe, to be vulnerable, to be honest and real, without the risk of being exposed or criticized or judged. You know, and to guide them in that process from all the mistakes that I've made in my life. So I'm not coming from a place of trying to be clever or intelligent. It's from a place of realness and having got all the marks in my, and they've healed, you know, so I can support you on that journey. So that's where I come from. And then I do a lot of motivational speaking and talks globally at conferences and summits. And that's how we got to meet, for being in the States just a couple of months ago, speaking at conferences. And I had the privilege of spending a wee bit of time with you. So that's awesome. So that's from Be Real. And then I've got another company with a business friend of mine where it's called resonate.com, where we created a world first verbal communication intelligence framework and profile. We designed that along with Harvard Business School. And from that space, we help companies to communicate in a way with their customers, their clients, and internally in a way that you guarantee to resonate with people so that you can actually get their attention and get their buy-in to move forward. So yeah, that's what I do.
The fun part about being in a space that you're in, two things. One, I actually talked to a guy who was a top level executive at Nike. He also won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks as an executive. He was talking about yesterday. He said the same thing you did. He said when you get towards the top, it's very lonely,
Yeah,
right? And a lot of people here
absolutely.
today want to be successful, want to grow in their business skills, want to grow in
Yeah,
life in general.
yeah,
What people don't realize, I think, consistently, if people at the top are lonely.
yeah,
And you have to build foundations now. I think the purpose and one of the true factors that we're going to come out of today is individuals right now on our platform are young individuals, young professionals. If we can build that platform now, we can build a foundation for when we do become successful. We're not alone at the top, but we've had somebody. That's also why mentorship along the way is so important. And mentorship comes in all different forms and facets, right? And I think today we're going to hear a master class from somebody who does it at a very high level. And I'm very excited to dive into how you've been able to work with C-level executives, work with professional athletes, but also the second company that you're running is how to communicate, right? It's
Yeah.
how to communicate with people. How do we resonate with
Yeah.
individuals that we might
Yeah.
not know a lot about, right?
Yeah.
Before we can do that, we have to start at the major inflection point of your life. It is a phenomenal story. I got chills hearing it the first time, and I think everybody listening to this is going to see the same. Your face lights up. If you're not watching this right now, you should go back and look at this either on YouTube or Spotify. His face lights up. He absolutely gets jacked to talk about this. I'm going to give you full platform. I want you to run in depth what happened in your story that has driven you to really where this moment is now.
Awesome. Yeah. Tanner, thanks, man. It's actually, the story goes back so far when it actually started. There was this one big miracle story that started, well, actually this month, 4 years ago. But there was one prior to that. I don't know if I shared this with you, where I, in 2010, had a mountain bike accident. Did I share that with you?
No.
So actually in 2010, August 2010, I had a mountain bike accident, and my whole skull burst out on the side of my face. You can see some of the marks here still. So my whole skull burst out, and my whole face burst open, my neck burst open. So long story short, medically, they could not explain how I survived that. I was 4 days in ICU fighting for my life. Then 3 days later, miraculously just healed and walked out of the hospital. And I know, right?
I know the second half of the story. That's the first half. That's crazy as in itself. You're
I
saying
know,
that very casually because of what's about to come next, but
I
that's
know, right?
crazy in itself.
That's so true, man. That's so true. But so the big learning that I got from that initial second chance at life was that I got to realize that all the mistakes and issues that I had in my life, you always have someone and something you can blame for. And that's what we do. But I, at that point of time, came to realize that the finger always pointed to me. I was the one that had to change, and not pointing the finger to other people. And that was the big invitation in life, to start walking that journey of character building, to realize that I need to develop and build my character to be at a place where people want to engage with me, where I can be a trustworthy person, that if someone gets the invitation, that I get it because people can trust me, rely on me because of a sound, solid character. And that's something we don't realize. No relationship is built unless there's a foundation of character, solid character. And that's what I came to realize after my second chance at life. And after that, I really started to build my character, grow in character, so people can rely on me, trust me. My integrity is sound and solid. My word is my honor. And then life just changed for me in a big way because of that. Doors started to open for me. And that's just a natural consequence when you start living that way. You can't get away from it. What you sow, you're going to reap. There's no getting away from that.
It is going deeper into that. It is crazy how when you live a life of high character and high integrity and you do for others what you are meant here to do and here to serve, my biggest why in life is to serve, how doors
Yeah.
do open up. And I
Yep.
get it all the time. People are like, "You're the luckiest man
Yeah.
alive." Like, God loves you a lot.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he does. I think I'm one of
Yeah.
his favorites, right? It's because of it's
I
because of
think I
those.
beat you on that one, man.
Yeah, no, you have for sure. My wife tells me all the time, "It's like, I don't know how you do it. I think you're one of God's." I'm like, "Well, you should listen to Johan speak." But it happens like that. When you have strong character, when you have strong
Yeah.
integrity, good
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah.
And that leads you to new doors, and you just keep walking through doors along
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
which seems like it leads to the second half. I don't want to cut you off because that's one of the most exciting parts, but it's interesting to hear you say that as well.
Yeah, and that is such a critical thing, especially for young people to learn, because social media and all the marketing out there tells you the opposite. It invites you to take shortcuts, and just get quick fixes for stuff. But it isn't. It's not sustainable. It's not lasting, and that's when people maybe in a short space of time build up something amazing, but then it comes to a massive fall, and they wonder, how did this happen? but it's because there's not a foundation of character. And look at history. I mean, unfortunately, the one thing that we learn from history is that we never learn from history. I don't know why we do that. And but history shows us that every single person that has made a sustainable success of anything had a sound base of character that was built along the way and the relationships that came with that. Because that's the only thing that survives time, you know. So, um, but yeah, so that was my first second chance at life, man. And I started reaping the rewards from that and got married and two beautiful kids. And then COVID came, you know. I at that point of time I built up a good business as well. And so life was good. And I thought I had it figured out, eh? Don't we just and
That's when God starts laughing at you.
isn't it just? Isn't it just, you know? Look at me. Yeah, so then September came of 2021. I was fit and healthy and I just thought, you know, the day I'm gonna get COVID, because at that point of time we were all just waiting, when is it my turn? When am I getting COVID? You know, you just get the smallest bit of sneeze and go and test yourself. And it was crazy. So when I tested positive, my words to my wife was, "Oh, finally, at least I can get this over and done with now." Because I thought, because being so healthy, it's just going to be a little sneeze and I'll be over with. Well, man, I just went through a torrid time at home fighting this COVID. Eventually, 9 days later, I took the last bed in ICU in the hospital. And I don't know, do you want me to share my story now with my encounter with Jesus included in it or separate?
Good with it. Let's go all the way
Okay,
in.
let's go, man. So, yeah, so I was in ICU, didn't realize what was going on. I've never been exposed to anything like that, didn't know anything about oxygen saturation levels and what's going on. So I was on oxygen, I was conscious and awake all the time. Lying in this ICU with people around me, all on ventilators, induced coma. And geez, man, and I just wondered what is going on this, you know, because according to us, that stuff happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me, right? Always just happens to other people. And man, my third night in ICU, just after 3 in the morning, all of a sudden, I, for the first time on oxygen, just really started to struggle to breathe. Yes, and the alarms were just going off, and nurses were running towards me, trying to stabilize me. And as this was happening, I just had this vision of this truck driving towards me with a heap of sand on top of it. And it just drove towards me and dumped that load of sand on top of me. And as I was fighting and fighting to get out from underneath this heap of sand, the nurses and medical staff were trying to stabilize me. And all of a sudden, I got out of the sand and I started breathing again and they stabilized me. And that was the first time when I realized and thought, well, geez, you know, maybe life is not going to turn out the way I planned it to, you know? And you're lying there so tired and spent and could hardly do anything because you're just so starved of oxygen. And the next few minutes I was lying there being fine, and then all of a sudden I just started to struggle to breathe again, but more intensely. My oxygen saturation levels dropped even lower. Alarms going off, nurses running towards me, and I just saw the second truck driving towards me with a bigger heap of sand on top of it, dumping that on top of me. And I was fighting to get out as they were struggling to stabilize me. And all of a sudden, I got out of this heap of sand again, and they stabilized me, and I started breathing again. And it was amazing how, after the second time lying there, I just knew I'm going to die tonight. And there's nothing that I can do about it. You're lying there completely helpless, absolutely spent and broken, and you know that you're going to die, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And all of a sudden, the next minute, I started to struggle to breathe really intensely. Nurses running towards me, alarms going off, and I saw this third truck driving towards me with a massive load of sand on top of it, and came and dumped that load of sand on top of me. And as I was fighting to get out, I couldn't. And the next minute, I just remember the main nurse grabbing me by the arm and just saying, "Mr. Koornhof, we're not going to let this happen tonight. Work with me. Please work with me." And the next minute, I just stopped breathing and went into respiratory failure, and everything went black. And the next minute, it was just blue skies around me. literally in an instant like that. Just blue skies around me. And I was in this glass box, just floating off. And I realized I died and I'm off to heaven now. But I was like, man, I can't accept this. I've got my wife and 2 boys at home. This is not how life is supposed to work out. And I was there fighting and trying to break this glass box, hitting it and kicking it, trying to break it so I can get back. And it's just not possible. And the next minute, I just heard this voice. Who do you think I am? And in the back of my mind, I knew this is Jesus, but I was like, man, I'm busy here. I've got to get this thing sorted out. I've
You
got to
gotta get
take
out of this
control here.
box. Leave me
I know,
alone.
right? I've got to take control here, man. I'm fighting and hitting this thing and kicking it, trying to break it. And the next minute, this voice just came back, but not like a speaker's volume that turns up. It's like the power in the voice just increased dramatically. Just asking me again, who do you think I am? And this time, the power of that voice just knocked me flat in that glass box. And as I was lying there, I just responded and I said, I know you, Jesus. And the response was, no, I'm not. And I thought, oh dear, didn't see this coming. And the next second he said, I'm not Jesus, I'm Jesus Almighty. And he said, Johan, but that means nothing to you anymore because you've become so used to me, so familiar with me, that you treat me, talk to me, talk about me like you speak to your friends and family, and that's how you treat me. Because you've become so used to me, so familiar with me. He said, Johan, even if I speak to you now like I speak to Job, where I told him that I've got the power in my hands to let the sun rise or the sun set, that I've got the power to let the waves tell them where they can break and where they can go and can't go any further. Even if I were to tell you that, it wouldn't even move you because you've become so familiar with me, so used to me. He said, Johan, every single breath that you are fighting for right now, it's a gift that I've got in my hand to give to you or to take away. Do I have your attention now? And the next minute, his presence just like disappeared. And all of a sudden, I was there and I had this one image after the next coming past me of every single time in my life where I turned my back on Jesus. And in that moment, I realized that I am now standing before the Father giving account for my life like we are all going to do one day, where the decision is going to be made whether you're going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell. And as these images came past me, one after the other, I just got this overwhelming knowing come over me that I'm going to go to hell, not to heaven. Me, a Christian my entire life, who've served on the church leadership team, who's built my whole business on Christian principles and biblical principles. Me, who didn't mind speaking about Jesus. I'm going to go to hell. And it's amazing how when you're in the spiritual world, there's absolutely no gray areas. There's no uncertainty. It's so crystal clear, yes or no. You just know what's going to happen and what's happening in that space. And as I just realized at that moment, I'm going to go to hell. After this image stopped, Jesus' presence came back and he said, Johan, as it is written, if you deny me on earth, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven. Just confirming to me that I'm going to go to hell, not to heaven. And then he said to you, then he started me, he said, Johan, you Christians are missing it big time. He said, your idea and picture of what the journey looks like through the narrow gates to heaven is completely misplaced. He said, that journey is a journey on earth of total surrender to me. In other words, my will be done, not yours. My picture for your life, not yours. I'm in control, not you. And the minute you live in that space of that total surrender, to then walk before me with an absolute obedience. If you walk like that, that is the path through the narrow gate that goes to heaven. And then he said, Johan, if you are willing to walk that journey, I'll send you back. He said, if you're willing to walk that journey, I'll send you back to go and testify and share this encounter to wake Christians up. And he said, but take your time. Don't just say yes, because I can see your heart. If you want to go back just to be with your family, or if you're going to honor my word, your commitment to me. And I later found out what it meant when he said obedience. It's not a tick box in obedience. What he meant by obedience is to live with a heart that is filled with the attitude of obedience. Now, what does the attitude of obedience mean? The power of attitude, and you talk about attitude, effort, results. I don't think we as human beings realize the incredible power behind attitude, because in attitude, there's no gray areas, there's no 99.9%. Our attitude is either yes or no, it's either in or out, it's 100% or zero. So, in other words, what he meant with obedience was that you should be living in total surrender before him, but in that surrender, live with a heart, with the attitude of everything that you do, every moment of every single day. Your desire in your heart is just to be obedient in everything that you do.
Mm.
That's the heart that he's looking for. That's obedience, not a tick box of I've been a good person today. And he said, Johan, if you're willing to live like that, that's the pathway. And he sent me back. And as he sent me back, I saw myself lying underneath that massive heap of sand again. But this time, there was hundreds, thousands of people digging in that sand to help get me out. And Jesus said, Johan, look, see all the people who are praying for you. Isn't that amazing to realize how powerful prayer is? What I didn't come to realize then, my wife and I, because I spent time 10 and a half weeks in isolation in the hospital. Okay.
Wow.
And after that, when I got home and I shared this encounter with my wife, we worked it back that very same evening at 10 o'clock that night. When my wife went to bed, my eldest boy, Lucas, he was 5 years old then. When she went to bed just after 10, she walked past his bedroom and she heard him talking. And she stopped because he should have been fast asleep, man. And she heard him talking. She stood by the door. And you know what? He was lying in his bed praying and he was asking Jesus to please send his dad back home. How was that? The prayer of a 5-year-old son saving his dad's life. Incredible is that?
Ooh. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
So, long story short, when it comes to that, so all of a sudden, in the hospital bed, they were fighting to get me back without any success. They eventually were pumping 60 liters of oxygen. So that's what, 15 gallons of oxygen per minute into my lungs to try and get oxygen through for me to start breathing again without any success. And when Jesus sent me back, instantly, boom, I started breathing again and they couldn't figure out what happened. So here's where the thing comes in. Following a few days later, when they did a CT scan on my lungs, they came to realize that it's medically impossible for me to be alive. My lungs were covered with pulmonary fibrosis. So I don't know if you know what pulmonary fibrosis is. So pulmonary fibrosis is like scar tissue in your lungs. When you get the tiniest bit on your lungs, they give you 3 to 5 years left to live because it's not curable and it spreads. So in that part of your lung, no oxygen can get through it, and that part of your lung can't function anymore. Mine were covered with it. So there was literally no more functional lung tissue left in my lungs. There was no space for any oxygen to get through. Yet I was breathing. For 172 days, I fought for my life one breath at a time. Like that. Until one morning I woke up and I just was breathing better. Took the oxygen off at home, kept on breathing, went for a CT scan, walked into my specialist's practice, and he just sat there crying. He looked at me and said, Johan, it's the most beautiful miracle that I've seen in my entire life. The pulmonary fibrosis is gone. My lungs are clean. It's cured. He said, it's not happened in the history of medicine. It's not possible. That's what Jesus does, man.
The power in that story comes from prayer, and it comes from trying to wake people up. And I think I needed that this morning personally. I know people out there
Yeah.
listening needed that. Is we can talk about God consistently, we can pray consistently, but are we in full surrender? I'm not sure I am right now, to be completely honest, and to be transparent with my audience and to be transparent with you. I'm not sure I'm fully surrendering, right? And that frightens me a little bit. And you think you're doing all right. And I think you can even, for people who are not fully in tune with God or fully in tune with their faith, that could be fully ingrained into your work where you think you're fully in and you're not. Like you are not
Yep.
surrendering, right? That's fully into something that is pulling your time attention away from what matters in life.
Yep.
And you have transitioned into telling that story beautifully. One, thank you for that. That was
Was
phenomenal.
That's a powerful. Thanks for that, Dan. I appreciate it, but that's a powerful comment to make. Because there's so many. I share this testimony of mine in a secular format where I just tell my story of the time in hospital and the principles I had to apply in order to keep fighting for my life, to be able to take the next breath. Okay, for 10 and a half weeks in isolation. So there's certain principles and values that I applied in order to keep going, to keep going, to keep hope and perseverance and resilience alive, um, and and I share that. And just in that itself, it is so incredibly powerful. For instance, there's on just what you've meant with your attention being taken away, maybe from stuff. I had to clean my life from everything that stole from me. So I got off social media. I resigned from a lot of stuff. I even resigned from one business that I had that was really stealing from me emotionally. So that all that noise that was stealing potentially from me to be able to focus on the next breath, to have life, I got rid of it. And without realizing how that helped save my life. And like you said, there can be a sports person now who have so much noise in their life that is stealing from them to be focused, paying attention to what matters most for them to be successful without realizing it.
Did you have to cut people out of that as well?
Yes.
What was that process like? Because I don't think that's a easy process to go through.
Um, no, it's not. Because you think that we experience it as loss, and we always think that, um, oh, what are people going to think of me now? But I came to realize, who cares? Because it's my life and it's my responsibility. And that's what matters to me. My responsibility is to my wife and my two boys in order to have a life with them. Other people move on just like that. And we don't realize that, you know. So if people don't add to my life in a healthy way, why do I need the people in my life? That's just silly, you know, if you come to think of it.
Yeah, Callie and I
Um,
talk about batteries and vacuums a lot, right? Who's giving energy to you? Who can you pour into? And who's
yeah,
sucking the energy out of you? Everybody here listening, when you think about a vacuum and you think in the idea of a person, somebody comes to mind, right? Somebody's taking
yeah,
energy from you. Somebody's sucking the life out of you. When that name pops up on your phone, you're like, oh, I really don't want to answer this right now, right? It's difficult to get rid of, but you need space. And what you're saying right now, you need space and energy to
yeah,
fully surrender. And again, you need
yeah,
space and time to fully be ingrained with your two kids, with your wife, right? Somebody going through school right now, maybe you need to disengage from social media, disengage from the parties and everything that's going on so you can focus on going to get a career, right? Maybe
yeah,
that's what you have to disengage from. And everybody right now has something different. That's the greatest thing about the human experience is that everybody has a different why of what they or why they do things. Everybody has a different goal. The principles, however, that you're talking about all align with where people are going. And so if you can disengage from the things that don't feed into you, you're giving yourself more space, more energy to go and do that. It seems like you have done that consistently and you teach it, right?
yeah,
To
yeah.
some of the top executives and athletes in the world. What is the process like? I want to flip into like taking your story again, so powerful. Taking your story and now applying that to top executives and athletes around the world. What is that process like? And how have you been able to change lives in doing so?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So at the moment, I obviously get a lot of opportunities to speak at conferences and seminars and summits globally. I either share my secular story about the time in hospital fighting for my life and how applying those principles not only changed my life in the hospital and helping to being able to fight to keep hope, perseverance, and resilience alive, but also how it's changed my life since afterwards, in building relationships and establishing relationships. So, or then I'd share the faith version as well. And obviously, you can imagine how that just touches people's lives. If you um, see yourself as a Christian, but then come to realize, whoa, man, I've really been confronted now, realizing that, you know, maybe all isn't as safe as I thought it was. But what a great place to be. What a fantastic place to be. So 9 out of 10 times I'll be in that space, and from having shared what I share, that it gets stirred in people to want to walk a journey with me, to want to know, well, how do I change my life? How do I tap into what you living? How are you doing that? Because and and that's what I do. Then you just start walking a journey with that person. You start engaging with that person. You invite them. So my journey is going to continue until the day that I do finally take my last breath. Okay. So all I'm doing is I invite people on this journey with me. You know, and and then I'll speak into your life. If you want to walk a journey with me, as your mentor, um, that's what happens. I invite you to walk this journey with me. I invite you to invite me into your space, which is safe. I then speak into your life, into all your relationships, helping you to figure out and find out what is that path for you that you need to walk. And how can you manage and navigate that path in a way that is healthy and sustainable? Um, and that's what we're all after, because at the end of the day, um, we need to have relationships around us that we can rely on, that is safe, relationships where that builds me up and I'm there to build up that space as well. And that shouldn't be my 5,000 people on Facebook or Instagram, okay? Because that's not real. It should be that handful of people that 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, you can press that button. And doesn't matter what you've done, that person will be there for you. And that's what matters. That's legacy. If you want to talk about legacy in life, that's legacy. It's what the people who are closest to you say about you when you're not present.
So you talked about two things today that I think recently in my life I've been going through a couple different things that I go back to that I care the most about, that I think I get passionate about. And I think where if somebody challenges that these two things within me, I think it switches something on, because I think I've created it. One is character and integrity, right? We
Yeah,
talked about that earlier. What is the character? Who are you as a person? How are you showing up every single day? And do you
yeah,
have integrity in what you're doing, regardless of your role, regardless of your age? Do you have character and integrity? Two is legacy. And how can you create a legacy? And I think that probably stems from me growing up in a small town dairy farm where my parents and grandparents served at the church. They were very heavily involved in the community. They were the athletic director. They were the coaches. Like, they were everything in the small town, right?
yeah,
And they have a
yeah,
legacy, but it wasn't because they were doing everything. It was because of how they treated people.
yep,
And the
yep,
legacy that you have, and people listening right now, the legacy that you have is how you show up
yep,
consistently. And what do you want that legacy to be? I'm not sure a lot of people think about that. I'm not sure a
yep.
lot of people go through that thought process to go deep into, why am I doing what I'm doing? I actually think a lot of people get into roles and they go, all right, what do I want to do? I want to be an accountant. I want to be a doctor. All of a sudden they get 2, 3, 4, 5 years in their career and they go, why am I doing this?
I know,
And then it
right?
might be a little too late, right?
So here's the amazing thing, what you just said there. It's what I want. I want to be in control. And here's the big thing where Jesus said, you're not in control, I'm in control. So and we don't realize this, every single area of your life where you are trying to be in control, Jesus is not present there. In that moment where you try to take control, you know what you're doing? Really? You're telling Jesus, you go and sit there. I've got this. I don't need you. And we don't realize that. Every single place where you are trying to take control. And how many times we, for instance, we'll pray, oh, Jesus, my marriage is a mess. Please help it, help it. Please help me in this space, fix my marriage, help it. And then I say, amen. I get up and I go and tell my wife what she needs to do to change to make this better. I take control again, but I've just prayed. Meant nothing. Because we've got this default in our lives where we want to take control. I've got this picture for my life that I've created and I'm pursuing it. And I'm asking Jesus to bless that. Seriously? How's that working out for you?
How does one change that? How does one take a step back from taking control of their life and allowing God to do that?
Great question to ask, because that's what it's all about. It's like the reality is, I am where I'm now. Okay, wherever you are, go, Jesus, this is where I'm at. I surrender this to you. Your will be done. So from this moment onwards, I surrender everything to you. So if you don't want me to be in this relationship that I'm in, please close the doors. But then if that person then does start behaving in a way that that relation needs to end, not for you then to fight and try and get it back again, because then you're trying to take control again. So here's the thing, we often surrender, but we surrender with our own almost like demands. You know, I'll be happy to surrender, but please don't ask me to stop playing golf with my friends. Or please don't ask me to stop on a Friday night drinking too much when I watch a game with my friends and I party with them. You know? No, it's surrender, total surrender. So, Jesus, I do give my entire career life future to you. Please open the doors, close the doors. So now if you get fired on Monday, for instance, don't now try and fight and get back and take them to court. No, if Jesus closed the door, accept it, because he won't close the door without opening another door for you. So it's simply a process of just really surrendering everything to him and saying, Jesus, your will be done, not mine. If you want me to stay in this role that I'm now, I pray for your power and your peace to guide me in this space, and your will be done. And remember, his will always be in line with godly character. Just remember that.
When you're speaking, I want to give some knowledge that people here may not have heard before. When you're speaking with CEOs, executives, athletes, not sharing any detail because confidential information should
Yeah.
stay confidential. What are some of the biggest categories that those level of people struggle with? Because I think a lot of people here are probably going to be struggling with the same thing. And I want to make everybody human, right? I used
Yeah.
to look up to CEOs and executives and athletes and be like, holy smokes, I'll never be able to be them. And you try your whole life to be like them, but they struggle with the same things that we're doing,
Yeah.
right? They
It's
struggle with
easy.
the same things. It's just a larger scale.
I can tell you now, 9 out of 10 people, the very first thing they come to me about is not with their professionals, but their relationships. It's because of the challenges and the damages that's been done to the relationships of those people closest to them in order for them to achieve what they've achieved.
So is that leaving the relationships behind to chase what they're after? Is that damaging
It's,
that, or is that people taking advantage of them because of the position that they're in?
well, remember, it's when it comes to your spouse and your kids, you achieved what you achieved at a cost to them. You weren't present. You know, there was always somewhere else we had to go, we had to be, and you always justified it in order to make more money, to look after them, to give them a life. And it came at a cost. And now they've achieved where they are, but they know that they hardly know their kids or their spouse. Maybe their spouse wants to leave them. The kids don't want to spend time with them because the relationships is not healthy. And they ask me, Johan, how can you help me with that? And that I can tell you 9 out of 10 times with those people, that's where we go to. That's one of them. The second point, which almost all of them come to me about, is, Johan, I'm alone. Even though I've got so many people around me, I'm alone. Alone meaning I'm in this job, I'm successful, but I feel like a fraud. You know, I don't feel, I just wait for the day I'm going to be caught out type of thing.
Almost imposter syndrome.
Almost like imposter syndrome, but almost like there was almost feeling as well, what is my real purpose? You know, because all of this is just money and titles that I've been chasing after, but I've come to realize that now that I've got everything, you know, I still wonder what do people think about me? And what I think they think about me is not pleasant, you know? Um, and so it's about walking a journey with them to actually find their true self, for them to have build up a proper healthy self-esteem, if you want to call that, without a self-esteem that is built on their title and what they've achieved. so that they can literally sit down and just have peace in their heart.
That is powerful because I chased that for a little bit. I was blessed that I've had people in my life of like, hey, that's not where you want to be. And I've been able to surround myself with people like yourself who have kind of knocked that ego down from me early in my career. And so there are people that are out there right now that are like, that is exactly what I want. I want the title. I want the money. I want. So, hey, that can be something that you can strive for, but let's remember who we are, who we're surrounding ourselves with. And as
Yeah.
I get older in my career, I actually talk to less and less people, and I could talk to a wall for an hour and we would have a great conversation.
Yeah, I hear you. So, Tanner, what you're saying there is so important. It's achieving that is not the problem. It's the journey of getting there that needs to be navigated in a healthy way so that you can get there being a healthy, sound person. And that is where the challenge lies. And unfortunately, that's not what people sort of gravitate towards initially. They just want to chase after that without realizing it's going to come at such a big cost. And when that cost comes, the damage is done, you know? Where there's a way to get there without that damage, without that great cost, where you can achieve what you want to achieve and make sure that it's aligned with what Jesus' purpose is for you. Because then He will also guide you, He will provide, He will make sure that when you get there, you don't come to a fall, and that's His word, that's what He said. But if you try and achieve it all by yourself, with all this image about me and look at me around me, I've done that and I came to a big fall. It's not sustainable, man. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But I can tell you story after story of people, professional athletes and professional people who came to me at a young age. Okay. And I started walking a journey with them and they achieved great things in their industry. But when it happened from a place of still being humble, having healthy relationships around them. And eventually, when that part of the journey came to an end, it came to an end with absolute peace and joy. And that's what we need to do.
That's what people are searching for right there. As we wrap up today, what have I missed? What can you continue to bless us with in terms of knowledge and experience from your side that I have not covered today?
Tana, I mean, there's so much, man. But I think the one thing that is so critical that people just need to realize, if you want to have one thing that'll change your life in such a short space of time, in terms of healthy relationships around you, is if you can remember one thing, that life is so much simpler when you come to realize it's not about you.
Hmm. It's a good one right there. I've never done this before, and for those of you who don't feel comfortable praying with us here, I don't want to force anything upon anybody. I actually, Johan, I want to ask that you pray for everybody here today that has listened, and for everybody that will listen. Again, this lives on forever.
Yeah,
This will always be there, and so I want to ask if you're open to it, which I feel like you probably are, to pray for us and everybody here today, um, that we continue to surrender, that we continue to live
yeah,
in the ways that we talked about here today.
yeah. Yeah, by all means, man, absolutely. Oh, Jesus Almighty, thank you for this opportunity. And I just pray that you will just touch the hearts and move in the hearts of every single person who is listening now and who will listen to this in the future going forward, but that you will touch their hearts in such a way that they will just, even if they just experience a glimpse, Jesus, of your almightiness, because in that moment their lives will change forever. The minute they become to realize just that you are Jesus Almighty and you are in control and you've got this. And that from that place we can surrender to you, knowing that you are in control and we are safe with you. Doesn't matter what our circumstances look like, we're safe with you. And I just pray that everybody listening, their hearts will be open to that that they will allow you to speak into their lives because you are the king. You are in control, and you're the only person that can change our lives and change our hearts and our destiny at the same time. And I pray that everybody here will be willing to let go of everything they need to let go in order to hear from you, to spend more time with you, because if we don't, how can we hear your voice? And I pray that now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. One of the most impactful episodes that we have ever done here. Yeah, you and I are going to stay in touch. I need you in my life, so I appreciate you. Thank you for joining
Yeah,
me.
man. Dana, you're more than welcome to. And if anything ever pops up, you've got more questions, if you've got listeners coming back to you with questions, dude, let's do this again and answer some questions, man. Happy to do that.
Deal. Let's do it. Well, Attitude Effort Results community, let's inspire others and continue to grow together.